let it, let me make sure
I'll
it's
share
going.
Me too.
And then I'll make sure it's going.
Okay.
In a sec, and then, okay. All right, so it should be live on Facebook now. So let me go ahead and share it and stuff, and then we'll wait for some people to get on and we'll go.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Good. Okay. I know, all the technology, super fun to figure out. But that's how we've been doing. Eileen, have you guys been doing yours, your like interviews through Zoom?
I didn't even know what Zoom was until the pandemic hit back in March, and then my workout classes went on to Zoom. So I've learned a lot about Zoom and other forms of interviewing. So it's been crazy.
I know, exactly. It's just been so weird.
It really has been.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. I shared it. Did you share it? Are you good?
I'm trying to share it. Yeah, I see it. I'm making effort to share.
Go ahead, dude. Just go ahead and try.
There we go.
And then we'll get started.
All right, we're sharing. I'm writing a post to tune in.
Yeah. Tune in, everybody.
All right, I shared it.
Okay, perfect. So we're officially live. So hopefully we'll get some people watching here pretty soon. So I'll go ahead and introduce you so everybody knows that I am a news reporter in Dayton, Ohio. I was working in Youngstown though, which is where I met you beautiful lady, Caroline, who's also a reporter and anchor in Youngstown. And you have a great, well, not great, but an interesting story as far as, the different heart conditions we've been studying that have been associated with COVID-19 and everything like that. So, Caroline, let's go ahead and get started as far as, your story, how things went. So, first of all, let's just say you're very healthy, you're always athletic, you're working out, stuff like that. So I'm sure this kind of came as a shock to you.
It did come as a shock. I mean, like you just said, I'm a former college athlete. I played on the golf team at Point Park University in Pittsburgh. It's been 5 years since I graduated, but I'm still very active. I keep up with golf. As well with news reporting, I work on a show that's all about golf. I play all the time. I run, I go to yoga, bar, spinning, you name it, I'm there. So I thought that when I found out I was exposed to COVID-19, I thought I'm in some of the best physical shape I've ever been in throughout my 20s. If I get it, I'll fight the virus off. Well, it ended up that I tested positive and I got sick, but I had been much sicker many times in my life before. I mean, I didn't feel good. I was noticeably sick and I had the COVID symptoms, but I thought I'm going to beat this and everything's going to be fine. Well, several days into having COVID, I was chatting with my mom on the phone and I was like, yeah, I've been waking up with these chest pains in my left side throughout the night and in the morning. And immediately she said, go to the hospital. And I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. Like, it's probably nothing. And she's like, no, you need to go. She called my cousins who are all doctors and they were like, you need to go. This could be a number of different problems. So I went and it all started from there.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, you're having chest pains. In my head, I'd be like, okay, this is it. Like, what is happening here? So you're terrified and now you're rushing to the hospital.
And I'm also, as somebody that works out all the time, like I'm still trying to work out. I'm still trying to golf. I was taking it easy as in I was sick or laying around, but I was still walking every day and trying to push through workouts. So I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. So I get to the hospital. It was a Sunday and I told them what was going on. They ran some tests in the ER, a lot of blood tests. They did an EKG and they said that in my test results, they noticed a high level of troponin in my blood, which would indicate that your heart muscle is stressed. So they admitted me to the hospital where I stayed the night and they monitored me all night. And thanks to my primary care doctor and the cardiology team over at Sharon Regional Hospital, they determined that I needed a cardiac MRI. So I went, I never thought I'd be 27
years. Oh my gosh.
And then this happens, I need a cardiac MRI. They did the cardiac MRI, and immediately they have really advanced technology at Sharon Regional in Sharon, Pennsylvania.
Oh, good.
So for people who aren't from the area, I cover Northeast Ohio when I'm news reporting, and Western Pennsylvania. We're kind of this group here on the state line. So I'm from the PA side of the border, so Sharon Regional. So as soon as the cardiologist, Dr. Mikulich, looked at the images, he could see around my entire heart that the lining of my heart, or the sac of the heart, was swollen, and noticeably swollen. I mean, I did a story on it, and you could really see the noticeable white swelling. The images were colored. And I was like, you mean to tell me that wasn't there before I got COVID? He's like, no, this is pericarditis. It's the less severe form of what could have developed into myocarditis had I not got all this done. I know.
So you're sitting there. So when you're in the hospital, let me first ask you, I mean, this is just the basic questions. I mean, when you were in the ER, I mean, was it still kind of COVID precautions at Sharon Regional, or were you allowed to have your mom there? Because I would have been freaking out.
Yeah, so my mom actually works at Sharon Regional Hospital, and she does have to go on to the COVID floor to treat patients for various different reasons. She's a speech pathologist, and they deal with making sure that people can eat and swallow. A lot of the older patients that come in with COVID might have a stroke or something, and they need that. So my mom works in the hospital, so she called, gave them the heads up that I was coming in, and so they were expecting it. They knew I was COVID positive. It had been quite some time, like maybe 12 days. So I don't think that they were like as concerned, but yeah, I was admitted to the COVID floor. So everybody who came in and out of the room had to wear masks. I wasn't allowed, family members in the hospital. I knew my mom was in there though, which was nice, communicating with the doctors and the nurses. And it was bizarre. I mean, even when I was in the emergency room, it was like isolation, this is a COVID patient who's in the ER right now. So it was very bizarre. And what also made it bizarre is by the time that I went into the hospital, I had overcome those COVID symptoms. So originally when I came down with the symptoms, I was really tired. I had aches, I had pains, I had a headache. I kind of felt like I was going to pass out one morning because my headache was so bad. What else? I was really thirsty. No one talks about that. I was so thirsty.
So you had almost every COVID symptom they saw.
I didn't feel like, wow. I have felt much sicker before. I was sick and really tired, but by the time that the chest pains continued and continues, by the time I went to the hospital, this is like day 12. So I felt a lot better, but the chest pains were very noticeable and very uncomfortable. So it's kind of weird to be in the COVID unit. I'm totally aware of like what's going on. I'm totally capable of standing up by myself and walking. Yes, I did have the chest pains, but like I was still able to walk.
You're still like functioning.
So that was interesting in itself, but the chest pains were getting worse and worse. So I knew when I was sitting in there, I'm like, I needed to be here.
Gosh, and I just going back to that, I mean, it's mind blowing because you understand the precautions and why the doctors and the hospital staff, they're taking them, but it's for some, and I'm assuming you've never really maybe you have been in the hospital a couple times here and there, but that's the scariest moment for a lot of people's lives. And to be completely alone, thankfully you're able to have your mom there. I mean, that's so scary.
And, as we talk about this, I'm fully aware that, situations involving COVID have ended a lot different than mine. But I think having the chest pains and me not being a medical person, I'm like brushing it under the rug. Yeah. So had I not, brought it up to my mom and talked to some people who were actually in the medical field, who this all happened right when all this news was coming out about how COVID can impact the heart and how it can impact healthy athletes. That's why the college doctors are so concerned about it. So, I didn't know about this at the time because this is all happening right when that news is coming out. So I was lucky that I had family members that kind of say, get to the hospital.
Oh my gosh. And so, okay, so then you do the test and they find this in your heart. And so did they say that, because, with a lot of these college athletes and professional athletes, they're still really looking into, how exactly COVID is affecting the heart and things like that. But so they told you, this is a direct correlation from COVID then.
Yes. So I did a whole, if you don't live in the Youngstown, Ohio area, and you don't have our local WFMJ NBC station, my management was so phenomenal in giving me a platform to share this story here locally. And one of the things that I can remember most about what Dr. McLitch said to me, it's kind of funny. It's two Dr. McLitches. One is the father, one's the son. They both took care of me. It's a great team. One of the things that he said to me was, Caroline, if you would have come in here 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have, believed what I was looking at. But he was like, knowing what we know over the past 3 weeks as new information and research is coming out, he said, I knew as soon as I looked at this was pericarditis caused by COVID-19. And I was like, okay, what's pericarditis? I don't know anything. And they were so great in explaining it. So what can happen with pericarditis, as I've learned, is it can develop into myocarditis, which is when your whole heart muscle ends up swelling, and that can be really fatal. That you can go into cardiac arrest, you can develop all kinds of problems. But with this pericarditis, you can still develop, arrhythmias if you don't take care of it. And knowing athletic people like college athletes, I mean, you're in it to win it. Like, you keep working out, you keep playing. So it's really important that you get this looked at. I mean, I probably would have been back at my workout classes still having chest pains. I didn't go get it checked out, irritating this, and it could have turned into myocarditis, and then it could be fatal. So it's really important to realize what can happen.
Absolutely. So with that being said now, first I have a lot of questions for you, but my first question, so with that, when the doctors gave you this diagnosis, was there any follow-up things you needed to do to try to, make it better? Anything that you have to do lifelong? I mean, is this something you're going to be dealing with now for a long time?
So they said right away, and I said, you almost caused a 27-year-old to have a stroke. They took me off working out for the next 3 months. They don't want my heart rate to be elevated in any way. So they also don't want me to carry around our video cameras and our tripods that we use when it's called multimedia journalists, MMJ, in our jobs. So they want me to work with a photographer. And at first I was like, okay. And then I did some walking and immediately, caused chest pains. I tried to swim my golf club, caused chest pains. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm doing nothing. And then they put me on an anti-inflammatory medication that they use to give gout patients to bring down their inflammation. Well, it'll help bring down the inflammation in my heart. So I've been on that medication. I just had to go back to get some blood work done today because it's been about a week since I've been on that. So I went and got blood work today. I feel fine. So that's good. And now I'm just trying to eat. I'm like, okay, what is heart healthy? I guess salmon and, vegetables and fruits. And so I personally am trying to make the choice to eat healthier in hopes that maybe it'll help me recover. But in reality, though, he said that inflammation in my heart will be there for about a year, but they want to give it the 3 months to really try to recover right off the bat.
Absolutely. So I'm sure this opened your eyes and, to a lot of different things. And I'm realizing, because I'm kind of paying attention to if people are commenting and things like that.
The comments.
And so I was just kind of looking, but, I'm realizing that the majority of people probably watching, and a lot of people watching right now are from Youngstown. So just a brief, little pause. I'll explain kind of what we're doing here, because I probably should have done in the beginning is, and maybe some of you remember me, Molly. I worked at Caroline's competition at WKBN, but I'm part of this nonprofit organization called Who We Play For, and we provide free and reduced price EKGs and heart screenings for student athletes because for some reason they are still not mandated as part of physicals in this country. So that's something we did. We started in my hometown, Cocoa Beach, Florida, and we're moving quickly all over the country right now. So that's part of the reason I want to bring Caroline on, just if you're joining us and things like that. But so kind of tying into that now, Caroline, I mean, we're looking now, you obviously have had this, professional athletes, college athletes, and doctors for these professional teams are really recommending that when a athlete comes back from testing positive, they need to get the heart screenings done. Is it opening to your eyes? I know you did this story, just how big of an issue this could be for
It
athletes.
really is. It really is, Molly, because I said it, but I want to stress that I have felt a lot sicker many, many times in my life. So I knew my body was working hard to fight the virus off because I didn't feel good. I mean, I felt sick. But I can think of right off the top of my head in the past couple years when one, I was in not as in good shape as I am now physically. And then I just was way, way sicker. So I'm not a medical expert, and this would be a question for a doctor, but it's something about this COVID-19 virus that's really putting a stress on the heart. And I'm sure athletes, professional athletes, college athletes are going to tell you the same thing. I felt much sicker before. So, my question was, why is this stressing the heart so bad? So it just is. I mean, that's the only answer. This virus just is stressing the heart. And you had mentioned some professional athletes. I mean, I think the I
Red
don't want
Sox pitcher, yeah.
Red Sox pitcher, okay, and a couple other people have said they're taking the season off because they got pericarditis or myocarditis. So why? And I asked the doctor this in my interview. I was like, so why is this prone in athletes? And he's like, well, he's like, we don't know, if it's prone in athletes. He's like, it's just more people are getting it, and when more people get it, we get more results and we get more information and we get more testing, and then we're able to kind of pinpoint what this virus actually does. So I just thought, hey, I'm a healthy woman in my 20s. I'll fight this virus off, which unfortunately I did pass it along to my boyfriend who has been public about it, and it didn't, as far as we know right now, he's still getting things checked out, but his heart feels fine. He hasn't really had chest pain. So it just affects everybody differently, and
Yeah,
to be aware of.
absolutely. And I think it's opening the eyes. I mean, it's just like whether you agree or disagree with like the testing numbers of COVID, I mean, it's out there and it is affecting people. And especially like the long-term effects, like they're researching this hard stuff. I mean, people need to probably take it seriously. I don't,
I yeah, I think a lot of people our age, I mean, of course, we take it serious. Our companies take it serious, and we knew we could get this. But I think a lot of us, like I did, kind of thought you'd get it and you would recover. But that's really not the case. There's so much we don't know about the virus. We just found out about this heart problem. What's the next problem that we're going to find out about? We just don't know. So it is a good message for especially people who are in high school, in college, and who are in that younger age bracket that still maintains, a good, healthy lifestyle, that you could get pericarditis or who even knows what.
absolutely. And so looking back now, imagine if you were a student athlete still at this point. I mean, when you were playing at Point Park, when you were playing golf, can you imagine having gone through this as an athlete?
Well, no, Molly, because fall season is really important. So when you're a golfer in college, you play spring season and fall season. And they're both big seasons. Spring was really big for us girls, but fall is still important. I tried to play last week. I made it through 3 holes and my chest pains immediately came back. So I played number 1 at Point Park University most of the time. So I would have just taken myself out of the fall season and I was on a full ride. That's just stressful right there. So with that being said, this is why athletes oftentimes push through. Oh, I have chest pain, I'm going to push through. I mean, I might have done that back in college. So it's just so important to get it checked out, especially if you're COVID positive. I mean, that's key here, is if you test positive for COVID, this is a direct side effect, a direct impact. Get it checked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's any other questions to ask someone who's gone through this, because it's funny because it's not funny, but it's just kind of crazy because it's like we, especially in the news business, we're telling these stories all the time about people contracting COVID, but to sit down and really talk to someone who's gone through it and all the long-term effects, I mean, I just have so many questions in my head, I just can't even pick them out.
And there's so many, I mean, the heart issue is so important, but even the fact that, I contracted, I think I know when I contracted the virus, and I didn't start showing symptoms for about 5 days, which seems to be the norm. In that 5 days, I hung out with my grandparents. I hung out with my parents. I hung out with other family members. I hung out with all my friends. It was my birthday. I had taken the weekend off. I anchor at 6 and 11 on Saturday and Sunday nights. And so I had just exposed everyone that I care about. And that's scary in itself, because if heart complications can happen to me, it could happen to anyone. So, and the virus complications just in general are frightening when you think about your grandparents who are in their 80s. So it was really stressful. We were really stressed for about 2 weeks. And then to add the heart issue that I'm going through on top of it, it wasn't great.
Not a great thing. Okay, so let me ask, like, going back. So when you got, so you tested positive for COVID 5 days before, or you how did you know? I guess you had it. Did you go do rapid testing, or what did you do?
Unfortunately, no, I wish, but I basically contracted it. I didn't go get tested until I started to feel symptoms. So I got really sick one day. It kind of took me down all at once, which is weird. A lot of people aren't like aware that it kind of like bam hit me. I went to my workout class and I felt really tired. And then I went home and I still felt tired, but I was like, oh, I had a crazy last couple of days. And, then 8 hours later, I had aches, pains, chills, fever, coughing, sore throat. And but all that kind of hit me like 8 hours later, kind of at once. So it was like really weird. And so then the following day I went and got tested, but test results took 3 business days to get in. And so I live with my parents. So I continued, living at home. And then I tested positive and then I got out.
And then you were out of that.
I went over to my boyfriend's, who also, unfortunately, I feel so bad, tested positive, and was away from my family and out of the house. So it's been, and then I've been here for a while. And now that I've tested negative a couple times, I can go back home, be around my parents. Now that we know that everybody's in the clear.
Good. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sure that's relieving just to like be done with it. I mean, not that you're done with like the heart things that are following after, but
It's so crazy. And what just freaks me out is like knowing that that's inflamed and irritated, and knowing that when I went for a walk or I tried to do some slow flow yoga, I got so irritated and caused these really annoying, just long pains in my left side of my chest. And so I'm really just trying to take it easy and just trying to share my story so people know that this can happen. I don't want it to happen, to any of you guys watching or anything. It's stressful. It's crazy. I can't do a lot of things that I want to do, which is such a minor thing compared
to. It's still hard. I mean, it's a total change of life for a long time.
It's hard. It's a change of life, and while there's a lot of different COVID stories and a lot of different outcomes, I'm so grateful and so lucky that we got through this. None of my family members got the virus from me, and that I'm going to make a full recovery as long as I don't do anything to interrupt the recovery.
Exactly. And so, I mean, it's just like listening to this, and then you're talking, you're saying this, and I go back to the whole reason we started, or Evan and all these kids in Cocoa Beach started who we play for is because this kid who everyone grew up with was on the soccer field, all of a sudden totally healthy, or so we thought, collapsed, SCA. And so it's like crazy to think, there's something out there, and there's a lot of people out there with heart conditions, even besides COVID, and they don't know about it, and they, unfortunately, unless they got an EKG, they from sudden cardiac arrest. So it's just so crazy to think, and it's like, and that's why I think it's just so important to zero in, especially when you have a warning sign, almost like COVID, to take it seriously, because for a lot of these kids who we're trying to save, but maybe we can't get to them in time, there's no warning signs at all. But with COVID, you have a warning sign, and that's known now to lead to possible heart issues. So you need to get your hearts checked out.
You really do. There's so much we don't know about the virus. Again, if I didn't get this checked out, they said, it could lead to myocarditis. It could be fatal. It could lead to just other problems with the heart. So if it happened to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anyone. And it's just something to be aware of. And it makes you, at first when athletics are being canceled and you're sitting here as a healthy person, like, why are they canceling this? Well, this is why, because these athletes are really at risk for contracting the virus if they're all in close quarters with each other. And then they can develop lifelong problems with their hearts or, other things. So it's important to keep them safe. So I have a much better understanding of why universities are taking these precautions now, why team doctors are concerned, and why moving into 2021, things are just going to look different. But it's worth it once you experience COVID and you experience the problems that can come after.
Absolutely. Well, before I'll ask you one last question before at the end, is there a final message that you would like to give the people who are watching and will be watching?
Yeah, wear your mask. Ask yourselves before you just walk into your grandparents' house, I need to put my mask on. Just try to stay 6 feet apart or further. It's seriously worth it. Take precautions when you're around people, whether that be in your workplace or, if you're trying to go out and enjoy a fun evening, still try to take those precautions. And if you get chest pains and you're COVID positive, go get it checked out. Don't mess with that. You get one heart. And it's kind of weird because the way that the doctor explained to me was your heart is a muscle, it's like if you injure your ankle, it gets swollen and you're not going to keep walking on it, right? And irritating it. You have to give it time to heal. So it's like the same thing with the heart. You have to give it time to heal and just be careful, because I think above all, I was just most worried about my family and my boyfriend, and it's a very stressful situation. So I would just take all the precautions that you can. And that's difficult, for people like us, Molly, like we still go into work, we still interview people. I anchor the news a lot. So wear your mask, wash your hands, kind of distance, and stay healthy.
Stay healthy. I know, exactly. It's just tough. And I mean, I think a lot of people are in positions like ours at work where it's almost inevitable to be around people. I mean, so you think about it, like teachers, first responders, things like that. We're out there, we're still out in the field interviewing people every day. And we try to keep the distance, but
I think, like, looking back and tracing my steps, I do, wonder, like, had I had on a mask at this one certain point that my mind goes back to, would I have gotten the virus? I was somewhere where I had to be and doing what I was supposed to be doing. But if I would have, maybe worn a mask, would this have been different? I don't know, but it could have been. I would have rather looked back on this and been like, well, I had my mask on at all times,
Yeah, but as long as you're trying, and I mean, I think as long as you're making a good effort,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's just,
things are just inevitable.
it is, yeah. And luckily, the people that I know who have contracted COVID have not experienced any problems with their hearts, which is great. And they have not so far experienced any long lasting issues. But again, the doctor said I'll make a full recovery as long as I don't do anything to interrupt my recovery process, and I should be fine. But not the case for everyone. So it's definitely a message I wanted to share. I love the organization. I think that that's so important to get your heart looked at, especially if you're playing these really intense sports. And I never would have expected this. That's all I have to say. I never would have expected this.
I don't think anybody can say that they, could expect this, and,
no, and
whether it's COVID or whatever.
No, and I just want to stress that as this was happening to me, this is exactly when, like a couple weeks ago, that the news was coming out. Like when nightly news started to report on it, and the big news organizations started to put this information out, was literally almost exactly when this happened to me. So it was also new and just crazy. So now at least doctors are becoming like more aware that pericarditis and myocarditis can be an issue. When I was doing my interview with the cardiologist, they said that they had just had a 19-year-old football player in there with myocarditis because he tested positive for COVID. So that was right before me. Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, that's why it's like, I've been like talking to our team and stuff that we play for. I'm like, I hate to say this, but like this is almost a time where we like need to hit the ground running because it's
Oh yeah.
like we need to be out there and if these schools and doctors and people, if people are not going to require EKGs, especially after returning to play from sitting out because they tested positive for COVID, there's going to be a lot more issues down the line. And
And Molly, to be honest, I mean, I didn't really know. I was like, what's an EKG? What am I getting done? Like, what a cardiac MRI? Like, what is all this stuff? I mean, I didn't know. I've never dealt with this stuff before. Luckily, parents and family knew, what was
yeah, thankfully we got some other
yeah,
people.
I'm like, what's an EKG? Is this gonna hurt? How long does it take? They're like, oh, it takes a couple seconds, right? Like they put the things on me and it was done, and they're like, that checked out good. But they knew there was something wrong, like I said, from the blood test and everything.
Right.
But at least for me, when they were listening to my heart and everything seems normal, and that cardiac MRI shows everything. I mean,
Right, and that's why it's like I know a lot of the doctors, I think it was the Reds doctor, I forget, I think it was the Reds, was saying that, even if it's not just an EKG, he's like, if you can at least get something,
yeah,
done to look, because I mean, obviously the more you do, the more expensive it can
now
get.
with everything coming out, the doctors can like diagnose you. Maybe not everybody is maybe has insurance or is eligible for the CARES Act, which can help cover things like that. So the doctors now are aware that this is a problem and can probably say like, you probably have this or that, which is good, but still like it's really good to know. And if you have access to being able to get that cardiac MRI or really get it checked out, I'm not sure how doctors without doing a cardiac MRI would decide if it's pericarditis or myocarditis, which is kind of
Right, I don't know. I'm not the doctor
I
here.
know pericarditis, like I'm going to recover myocarditis, your heart muscle is literally inflamed. In my case, it's just that surrounding sac around the heart. So two different things, both bad. Mine's not as bad, but it could turn into the bad thing. And so it's like you got to get it. If you have chest pains and you had COVID, go get it checked out. If you're an athlete and you're having chest pains, go get it checked out. Because I've talked to a lot of people who weren't COVID positive, who just developed, pericarditis or myocarditis because maybe they were sick and, got it a couple years back. And it's just, it can happen. But it's so weird to me that COVID is really a direct cause of it. Because, like I said, I've been way more sick before.
Yeah, no, it's definitely crazy. I mean, I'm glad we're doing this. We're giving people a little bit of a warning, about what's going on out there. But
Young people, listen up.
yeah, here's everybody. We're not inevitable. We're not invincible. I mean,
yeah, you don't want to be 20, just turned 27 and a couple days later be in the hospital. I mean, it was nuts.
yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Well, Caroline, thank you for sharing your story. So our last question. So obviously the name of our organization is Who We Play For. So brief history. Like I said, one of our friends growing up passed away from sudden cardiac arrest, and then it became Play for Rape. Then it kind of moved into this umbrella name that we called Who We Play For, because not only did we want to provide, free or reduced price EKGs for student athletes across the country, but we also wanted to, really start a fight and a movement and things like that for something that people don't realize. I mean, as sudden cardiac arrest is the number one killer of student athletes in the country, so that's kind of how this all got started. So the reason we named it Who We Play For is because we say that we all have someone that we're doing and fighting for. I mean, and it's like, it's who we actually play for. Like, a lot of us say that we either play for Rafe, who was our friend that died, or the reason we're doing what we're doing every day. So I want to ask you, who do you play for? And I mean, it can be anybody or it can be any cause or anything. It's just the reason that you wanted to even get your message out today.
Yeah, so definitely my grandfather, I call him Papa Don Sebastian. He is 89 years old and he still goes walking in the park every single day. He's killing it really. But he had a valve issue back when I was in college and had to have total open heart surgery. And he was at the Cleveland Clinic and they did such a wonderful job. and it really opened our eyes to different heart problems. I guess the blood flow wasn't able to like get through his heart, and it was making him feel tired. He recovered. He's been walking. He literally eats an apple every single day. So that's who I play for. We're so lucky that he's still here with us, and that he's always enjoyed walking and eating his apple a day, but he really took it seriously once he had his open heart surgery, and I really respect that. So lucky that I'm able to go on walks with him still. Haven't done that in a couple weeks because of COVID, but I'm gonna get back to it, nice and socially distanced apart outside. But yeah, that's who I play for sure.
I love that. I love the apple a day.
He really does. He literally eats an apple a day, and I believe a banana a day too. He loves his nuts too. Like he's always eating peanuts and almonds and cashews. And look, he's 89 years old and he's still walking. It's a mile and a half that we go in the park, and he religiously goes and enjoys going and walking around car shows. So I can't stress enough, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, still enjoying yourself. But I definitely think that he's been able to do so well after having open heart surgery in his 80s because of staying active. He's a musician, so he's always kept his mind active, which is a big part of it too. So he's definitely who I play for, and we've been able to do some American Heart Association walks together, and I've been involved in hosting the annual Heart Ball for the American Heart Association, which he's come to every year. So that's definitely who I play for.
All right, perfect. A great answer. I'm going to add all those things to my grocery list tonight.
Yes.
I got to stay healthy, man.
Want to watch this story, I don't know if you tagged my Facebook page.
Yeah, I did, but I can put the link as soon as we're done here. I'll put the link.
Caroline Collins TV there. It's on there if you scroll down a little bit, and you can watch the story to get a more condensed version of what you and I just
I know. No, we can I know. I'll put the link on our thing too. But yeah, I mean, for everybody who's watching, please give Who We Play For's page also a little like. So because we're going to continue trying to do these more, trying to share the awareness and bring awareness.
And like I said, not everybody has access to the insurance that I have through my job, and was able to get this cardiac MRI covered. I did know that when I was in the hospital and they were checking with insurance to see if the MRI was going to be covered, the CARES Act was an option. So they were confident that I was going to be approved for this either way, which was nice. I'm glad that I had kind of two options, but not the case for everyone. So an organization like yours is so important. So thank you for doing all that you're doing.
Oh, well, we love it. I mean, we have a good reason to do it. So yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. Obviously, I miss you. Everybody in Youngstown.
I want to see you.
Miss ya. Miss the Briar Hill Fest this year.
Youngstown has some of the best
food. It's best food in the world.
The Briar Hill pizzas. Oh.
The Briar Hill Festival is one of my favorite things of all time. And when it was fun, and I've been coming back every year for it, regardless of where I am. I'm in Dayton right now. I come back for that. And the fact that it was canceled, I understand why, but I was devastated.
Some of our favorite, we've been to many concerts at Cavelli Center and the amphitheater. Those are all canceled. Just like the restaurants and the bars that we used to go to. I mean, a lot of them have like very limited hours now, or have like shut down temporarily because of COVID. So it's such a different year, and I hope it's
a different year. I hope everybody makes it through. I really do. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this again. Everybody can go share this if they want or like it. If you have any questions too, feel free, to comment them, and I'll try to comment back and stuff as I can.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Your work is so important.
Oh, thanks, girl. It was good talking to you.
So good talking to you.
All right. I'll see you later.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.